Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Molly, and today I'm going to be doing my favorite books of all time. I have 9 books here. They're going to be in no particular order at all, so let's just jump into the video. Okay, so the first book I have for you guys today is my all-time favorite book of all time. I don't know if I told you this, but it's my all-time favorite book. That is The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. I read this book in 7th grade the first time, and it was the very first book I ever read in school that I actually enjoyed. I don't know, I just love the characters, and like, Johnny. I mean, if you haven't read this book, I don't know what you're doing in your life, go pick it up and read it now. It takes place in the 1950s, and it follows this boy, Pony Boy. He's a greaser, and they're in sort of gangs. There's the socials, who are the popular rich kids, and the greasers are the poor kids. It's about how him and his friend Johnny get into some trouble with some socials, and they gotta leave town for a little while. The author is a female, that's why it's S.E. Hinton, because, you know, books back then didn't sell if you were a female. It's actually based on the author's friend. This actually happened, it's based on true events of what happened with her friends, because she was friends with the greasers and stuff, and it was so good. And then after 7th grade, and I realized that I enjoyed reading, I was like, I have to read this book again because it was so beautiful, and oh my god, I love it so much. And the movie was great, even though the book was better. It was so good. 10 out of 10 recommend. The next book I have to show you guys is Challenge You Deep by Neal Shusterman. I read this book this past year at college, and I was just having a really hard time. I was in a really bad reading slump, so I wanted to pick up like a good, nice, easy read book. And this book, guys, is so beautiful. It's about this 15-year-old boy. He is just starting to realize he's just not who he used to be. He's having a lot of trouble staying focused, and he's a really good drawer. He loves to draw, and he just can't draw like the way he used to anymore. And it's so beautiful. There are a couple of his drawings in here, like this is how he's drawing now. He used to be able to draw like realistic characters and stuff, and now he just can't. And half the book is placed in his mind, and half the book is placed in real life time. And he's finally realizing like he has some mental disorder or something. So like how he's processing the world is a lot different, and it's so amazing. There's a bunch of ties to what's going on in his life right now, and how his brain is handling it, and how he sees the world. And then the ending was so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Like, I already need to reread this, and I just finished it like a few months ago. It was so beautiful. 10 out of 10 recommend. Challenge You Deep by Neal Shusterman. I mean, isn't this cover just beautiful? Look at it. And the next book I have to show you is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. Now, I read this book finally on Booktubeathon of this year, and I did really bad on Booktubeathon because of this book. I read it the first day. It took me 2 days to read it, and this book had me in tears. Like, I don't cry in books, okay? I'm a very visual person. Like, I cry all the time for movies and TV shows. It's ridiculous. But like, I don't cry in books. I don't sob. I was sobbing. Like, I had to take a second, because I couldn't put it down. I had to take a second to like be able to see, because I couldn't see, okay? That's how emotional this was. So then after that, I couldn't read any other books because this was just too amazing, and I just needed a minute, okay? I needed a minute to process it. So I did really bad on Booktubeathon this year. It's the only book I read. This takes place in like England. It's about this little boy, this young like middle school boy, and his mom has cancer and she's dying, like cancer treatments aren't working, and he gets visited by this monster who tells him he's going to give him 3 stories, and the boy's going to tell him the 4th, and he's going to tell him his truth, and the boy is not about that life, and he gets bullied at school, and it's just so beautiful. And I'm going to say 10 out of 10 recommend all of these, but 10 out of 10, please, if you haven't read it yet. I was really late on the bandwagon for this book, but read it. It was so good. The next book I have to show you is Tiger Lily by Jodi Lynn Anderson. This is a Peter Pan retelling, and it was so cute. I'm pretty sure this book actually made me cry too, but nowhere near as bad as the other one. It's about Tiger Lily through the perspective of Tinkerbell. So the fairies, they can't talk, and they can only feel one emotion at a time. They can hear people's thoughts because they're hearing so good because they just can't talk. And so Tinkerbell tells the story of Tiger Lily and Peter Pan and how all of it happened, and it was so beautifully written. I love the characters. I still hate Wendy. I will always and forever hate Wendy, okay? I don't care if you love Wendy. I don't like Wendy. Never liked her. Maybe when I was a child I wanted to be Wendy, but I mean, like, I don't like Wendy. Any depiction of her I just find very annoying, okay? And if you have different opinions, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm bashing on Wendy for you. I just can't stand her. And it's about how Tiger Lily is dealing with these newcomers. So in this book, Neverland is an actual island on Earth. It can be reached. However, not a lot of ships go to it because it's just out of the way for some reason. So the Englanders crash off the shore of Neverland. So the survivors come, and the Indians host one of them. The Lost Boys host the children. And it was just so good. And like the dynamic between Tiger Lily and the Lost Boys and Wendy and all of them was so good. And just how it ended was so beautiful. So good. Please, please read this if you haven't read it yet. And the next book I have to show you is If I Stay by Gail Forman. I read this book basically in one day. Technically counts as 2, but I finished it the next day at school in like second period, and I was really mad because I had to carry around a book all day and I had finished it. But like, this book had me hooked from the get-go. If you haven't read it, it is about a girl who gets into a car crash with her family, and they're all rushed to the hospital. Like, she's the only one that's like solid pretty much. Everyone else is like touch and go. So she is able to like wander around, like her spirit is out of her body. So she's seeing everything that's happening. She knows what's happened to her family. She can see like her boyfriend tries to come and visit her, grandparents go and visit her, and it was so sad. And it's just her deciding like, should I hold on to life or should I let go? And it's just like her remembering her life, remembering everything that's happened, all the good and the bad times, and deciding if she should live. It was so good. Well, I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I personally loved it. I especially love that it takes place in Oregon because I'm from Washington and I have cousins in Oregon and I go there all the time, so I knew exactly what I was talking about when I was talking about Portland and stuff. And I love it. The next book I have to show you guys is not one book, it's a trilogy. It is the Merciless Trilogy by Daniel Vega. I love Daniel Vega. This is the first book she wrote. It's her debut novel. Oh my god, it's so good. So it's a horror series. If you guys don't like horror, I would still recommend, even though it is for a mature audience only. So if you can't handle gore, I wouldn't do this book. It's very gory. So it's about this girl, Sophia. She just moved to Friend. Her mom is in the military, so she moves around a lot. And she went to Friend, Mississippi. And she's, it's her first day. She meets these popular girls. I like to think of this book as Mean Girls meets The Exorcism. Which one? So on the second book, on the back of the second book of the blurb, Mean Girls meets The Exorcist. So MTV agrees with me that it's Mean Girls. And this book is beautifully textured. It's textured like the Bible. It's so beautiful. And there's this other girl who used to be friends with popular girls, but she's not anymore, and they think she's possessed. So they decide to do an exorcism on her. And then, you know, crazy stuff happens. It was so good. So good. The second one was not particularly my favorite out of the trilogy. It's probably my least favorite. It was just really slow. However, I should reread it. But the third one was super good. It just came out. Oh my god. I personally don't usually like being on the like OG squad of series just because I hate waiting for books to come out. But I didn't know this was a trilogy, okay? I didn't know. So I picked it up and I fell in love with it. And then she was like, guys, guess what? New book. And I was like, who, what? Especially because like this book ended so perfectly on a cliffhanger, like a good cliffhanger. Like this was a standalone. I totally thought it was a standalone. It was so good. Please pick up the Merciless if you enjoy horror and Stephen King. She's been compared to Stephen King a lot. I hear a lot of reviews saying Stephen King type horror. The next book I have is also by Danielle Vega. It is Survive the Night. Also a horror book because that's all she writes. She's amazing. Funny story. If I ever meet Danielle Vega, I'm going to tell her this story because this is probably like my favorite book story. So me and my friend were just browsing Barnes & Noble, you know, just looking around, checking things out. All of a sudden she goes, Molly, Danielle Vega. And I was like, oh my god, Danielle Vega. So we grab the book. We buy the book. We go out to lunch. And I turn to her and I go, hey Victoria, what book did we buy? She goes, I don't know. And that was after one book, so she wrote this book, and then she came out with this book. After one book, we were hooked, and we needed everything Danielle Vega. So, that's how much we love her, and that's how amazing she is. But this story is about this girl named Casey. She just got out of rehab, and she goes on an adventure with her friends who aren't like the best influence of friends. She goes to New York with them. She goes to this underground club called Survive the Night. Then they get locked down there, and then people start dying. And oh my god, it was so good. I tried rereading it. I was reading it over the summer, and I made it to like halfway. Made it to chapter 14. Then I decided I didn't want to read it anymore just because like I knew what happened and I wasn't ready for all of that. I wasn't ready for all this intensity and all of the scary and death. I wasn't ready for it. I'm still not ready for it, so I haven't finished rereading it. But I love this book. Love it. This is probably so far my favorite one she's written, just because it was like so crazy. The next book I have for you is also a trilogy. It is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Now, The Hunger Games will always hold a very special place in my heart because these are the books that got me reading. I love these books. My friend forced these books down my throat in 8th grade. She was like, Molly, you have to read this. And I was like, I don't like reading. She was like, read it. So I was like, fine. So I went in the library, picked up The Hunger Games, and I read it, and I was blown away. I absolutely love it. And then I was like, I love reading now because of these books. These books are what got me reading, and I can never thank these books enough for bringing me into the world of reading. Catching Fire is definitely my favorite out of the trilogy. These books, I can never thank them enough for what they've done for me. And Suzanne Collins, thank you for The Hunger Games, and thank you for getting me to read. Thank you for bringing me into this world. And the last book I have to show you guys is Dream Factory by Brad Barkley and Heather Hepler, BBHH. And this book was super cute, and it's textured is really fun. It's like dots, and then it's fuzzy. But so this book is about how the Disneyland characters all decide to go on strike. So they have to hire a bunch of teenagers really quickly, take all the positions. About this girl named Ella, who plays Cinderella. So fittingly, right? And then this boy named Luke, who plays Dale from Chip and Dale. And they don't meet for a while. And then when they meet, they just like click right away. However, Luke has a girlfriend who plays Chip, and he just really likes Ella, realizes that, and of course, you know, it is a contemporary, and it's super cute, and I just love this book. So that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe down below, and let me know what your guys' favorite books are. I would love to know what your all-time favorite books are, and maybe recommend me some books that you think I might like. But thank you so much. Goodbye!